Aloha, kako. We'll go ahead and get started. So thanks everyone for joining us. We have mostly just our project team here tonight, but looks like we do have at least one family. So I'd like to welcome you to the presentation tonight. So this meeting will be recorded and posted on the DHHL website. So if you have to leave early for any reason, you can catch the tail end of the meeting then. I think we can go ahead and begin with introductions. And so my name is Cody Winchester, and I'm with G70. And I'd like to introduce Mr. Kavika McKee here to introduce the project team.
So aloha mai kako, Kavika McKee, G70. With us tonight, along with Cody, is Ms. Janice Jensen, as well as online Pi'ilani Smith and Mr. Kai Akiona, who make up our entire project team working on behalf of DHHL. So aloha and mahalo for allowing us to be here with you this evening. Colleen? If you can introduce DHHL.
Hi everyone. Good evening. This is Pearline Fukuba. I'm with Department of Hawaiian Homeland's Planning Office. And also joining us, of course, is our Commissioner, Zachary Helm, and our Planning Manager, Andrew Choi.
Aloha.
Aloha.
Pearline.
And it looks like we have this evening Kahanui the third. I'm assuming this is Ohana, or maybe it's a few folks gathered together. If you don't mind unmuting yourself and maybe just doing a quick introduction of yourself.
Hi, I'm Charles Kahanui. I'm representing Oliwa.
Okay.
I'm a homesteader.
Mahalo for being here this evening. So in this spirit, we want to pay honor and respect to our ali'i, Jonah Kuhio Kalaneana Ole, just recognizing the work that he's done the work and sacrifice he did for allowing us to be here this evening to think about the importance of not just homesteading, but how we connect to specific spaces that entail the care of our cultural and natural resources, including this park. But to set the tone this evening, I would like to invite Commissioner Helm, if you don't mind, to help us set the kahua in a proper way with pule, and we can go ahead and start the meeting thereafter. So Commissioner Helm, if you don't mind.
Yeah, mahalo. Puli kako. Heavenly Father, thank you for the opportunity to serve our beneficiaries as we continue to discuss the planning process for the Malama Park. We come together to ask you for your blessings. We pray for your spiritual guidance this evening. Bless all of the participants, including our DHHL staff, the consultant team, which is the G70 team, our beneficiaries, and all other community participants. Please keep us safe and healthy during these challenging times. Help us work together to build our community's vision. We look forward as a community in utilizing the Culture Park for educational, cultural, recreational, and economic opportunities. With all this we pray in the name of our Lord and Savior Jesus Christ. Amen.
Amen. Mahalo, Commissioner Helm.
Yep.
Admittedly, I think we were hoping for a larger audience tonight, but understanding that people have other kuleana to take care of and perhaps couldn't be with us this evening. The good news is, as Cody had mentioned, we are recording this and we'll have it posted. So anyone, share the news and anyone can actually tap into this. So we will present the presentation in full as possible so everyone gets a flavor of what the intention of tonight's meeting was about and the content therein. But we also may modify it because again, we were expecting a much more probably larger number of folks. And I also like to say, it was our intention. We're hoping to actually be on island to talk kealo ahialo with you folks this evening. But again, just the nature and condition of COVID and traveling, we made a team decision that we would conduct this meeting virtually. But we're hoping by the time we get ready for our third beneficiary meeting, that perhaps that's the proper time we can come and be with you this evening. So I'm going to turn it back over to Cody and let him start the program.
Yeah, Yeah.
So thank you, Cody.
All right, thank you, Kavika. And again, just for everyone's benefit that may be viewing this presentation at another time, this slide deck, as well as all the questions tonight, will be available on the DHHL website. You can just go to Google Malama Cultural Park, DHHL, and it'll be the first thing that pops up. And again, and there's all the slides and a link to where you can answer all the questions on your own time. So if during this conversation tonight, maybe the answer doesn't come to you right away, and later in the evening, think, oh, that's what I meant to say, you can provide that mana'o at that time. So the theme of the conversation tonight is laying the foundation. We're going to begin with going over where we are at in this planning process, what we've learned from you folks so far, from our past conversations, and then really diving in to the conversation about visioning and developing a clear vision for the park that the rest of this plan will be built upon. And then lastly, we'll begin the conversation about park design and exploring some of the opportunities and constraints that exist. So just briefly to give you an idea of where we've been and where we're going, this project kicked off in July of last year, where we held a small group stakeholder meeting with a few key folks that use the park and neighbors. And we really just want to get an idea of what happens in this park, who uses this park, and why is this place special. We then held a beneficiary consultation meeting in October of last year, where we got to have a great conversation 2 nights. We discussed the past planning efforts for the park dating all the way back to 1995, verified that plan as a great place to start and move forward from, and started the conversation about visioning and what this park is going to be. We next set out for some data collection, had a couple of site visits with archaeologists, biologists, did a civil infrastructure assessment and overall site analysis. We also had a few small group meetings with other stakeholders just to learn a little more about the park, some of the key issues and events that take place over the year to give us an idea of why this place is special and how we can harness that energy to make this park even more special in the future. And that brings us to where we are tonight. So again, the theme for tonight is to really dive in deeper and flesh out the vision for this park. And that'll lead us to the design phase. The vision is the foundation really for the park design. So we'll take the input provided from tonight and use that as the basis for the park design moving forward. We'll come back to you folks again in July and show some of the design ideas that we have in mind and get your feedback on that. And then we'll also start to have conversation about management options, about maintenance and stewardship of this park. With that, we'll then begin drafting a special area plan. So that'll be the management plan for this park. And once we have a preliminary draft, we'll take that to the Hawaiian Home Commission for informational purposes. And then the draft plan will be developed. We'll have more conversations with key stakeholders. Then another beneficiary consultation meeting in October. And then we'll finalize the plan for commission approval.
So just to really highlight what Cody's sharing here, one is we're really trying to emphasize that this is a community-based plan. We're building upon the knowledge in EK and desires of folks that go back to 95. As we mentioned, we reconvened in October, confirmed some of the important issues and opportunities there. And the hope and intention is we get through this through the remainder of the year, and that we have a very robust and very detailed plan that we can take back to commission, hopefully say by latest January of 2022 for approval. And then there'll be, of course, then some next steps about phasing it into implementation. Again, we really want to emphasize the fact that it is a community-based process. At the end of the day, this would be a park for the people, of the people, and by the people. So.
Yes. Now I just want to go over and share some of the key findings from our research at this point. And just to remind everybody, this special area plan is focusing on the DHHL-owned portion of the park, shown here in yellow. The entire Malama Cultural Park, from past plans, considered this entire area. So these portions over here are owned by the County of Maui Department of Parks and Recreation. And this portion is owned by the Department of Hawaiian Homelands. So again, this will be the focus area for this plan. Just to begin with, we really wanted to look at where this park was in context with the island. And we started off with the view sheds. So looking Mauka from the park, there's beautiful views in this area of Kamako. To our west, you can see the wetland environment here. This is just beyond the Molokai Yacht Club. And the waters from Kamako come down the Kaunakakai Gulch and feed this wetland environment where there's native plants and birds that inhabit this area. To our east is our friends at the Molokai Veterans Center, as well as some industrial uses nearby. And then looking Makai, we have a view of the ocean and the wharf that leads out to the Molokai Pier. And of course, beautiful sunsets in this area. So again, looking out Makai, you can see this gorgeous sunset here. Really special place.
So on that note, speaking of the power of sun and the fact that this is Malama Cultural Park, and as we understand it, even the heiau that was there as excuse me, underneath the cultural platform has connotation relationships to Mahina. A place we like to start with often is just understanding Wahi in context to things that move about us, right? We sort of understand there's an ancestral movement, whether it's through winds, rains, the movement of the sun path and the moon. So in this particular case, what we're showing here very quickly is this initial analysis in Google Earth that shows the sun path. So if you're looking at the picture to the left, the yellow line you see is the high point of the sun's passing in June, which marks the summer solstice. The green line marks the passage of the two periods where it comes back to sort of this middle ground, if you will, for the equinox. And then the red line on the bottom connotates the passage of the area. So this is on the sunrise side of things. And so what we found out is during the wintertime, it appears that from this vantage point in Malama Cultural Park, that the sun appears to rise above Haleakala. Thought that was pretty interesting. And then during the solstice period for summer, it rises over a point on Kamako called Kaulahuki, summit above Waikolu Valley. And during the equinox, the sun sets. We don't have a picture of the setting here, but it does seem to appear to set within sort of the dipping point of La'au Point. And likewise, we start to look at the movement of the moons through this period and the natural cycles. Again, recognizing even in the expression of Molokai Nui Ahina, the importance of the moon related to crop production, tidal movements, and even how that energy influences us as Kanaka. What we did learn from this vantage point is that the moonrise at its most southern extreme does line up at vantage points. We were to take these lines out to Mauna Kahalabai and Haleakala, and then coming back, it does move over through Kamako and setting over Mauna Loa town direction. So just points of interest here as we're trying to understand this place from a cultural context as well. Cody, back to you.
So we also looked at many of the historic sites that exist within the park. We identified 3 historic sites. The first shown here is a historic jailhouse. And you see it's in a little bit of poor condition, a little bit run down, and possibly even a safety hazard. High wind could blow that over and injure somebody possibly. This was once used as a Japanese internment camp. And it has moved locations around. This is not the original location where this jailhouse was built. Further up here in the Mauka portion of the park is a historic way station. And at one time, a railroad went down this area along Kaunakakai Place. And this was the way station where goods coming in and off the harbor would be weighed before going on and off the boats. And looking further Mackay, this is the Malama Platform. This was once the site of a heiau, the Mahina Hina heiau, and was then the summer home of King Kamehameha V. He used the platform to build a summer retreat on top of this platform, and was then the site of a historic church, which was built here and then relocated after a tsunami. So quite a bit of history here with the platform. We also looked at the biological resources within the site. So shown here in green is a wetland environment, which is mostly composed of pickleweed, but there are some birds that inhabit the area. We looked at the coastal resources, and there's quite a bit of gorilla ogo, an invasive algae that washes ashore in this area. Growing on top of the Malama Platform is some kiawe, and these are deep-rooted trees, and those roots can go in deep into the rocks of the platform and could possibly cause some damage. So something that we're going to be mindful of moving forward. Some of the trees that were planted on the site, it appears that they're no longer in a very healthy condition. Many of them have died. We also looked at the coastline, the coastal environment. See what this beach is what's happening here. Is this coastline growing? Is it getting more sand, or is it shrinking? Is it eroding? It appears that this stretch of beach is actually experiencing accretion. So it's growing, more sand is coming into this area. Now that could change with sea level rise in the future. We did a survey where we traced the slope of the beach. You can see that here, the backshore environment leading back into the wetland, the coastal berm here, the dune, and then a gently sloping beach that goes off into the ocean, into a tidal flat area. So any ocean waves that overtop this area, they spill back into the wetland area and pool.
So before we continue really quickly, so our original scope, like I mentioned, had us coming to island, at these different phases and to have these, face-to-face meetings. So it was our intention here. This is a technique that Cody has suggested would be something easy for us to do to kind of assess how the coastline is changing over the seasons that we'd be doing the work. And it was our intention to actually do these profilings every time we come to the island. We've only come to the island as a team, mainly Cody and Janice, to conduct certain studies here. So it is our intention that when we can travel, that we would go periodically, see maybe during the summer or in the fall, winter period, to see what's happening to this coastline and try to confirm some of our suspicions about how sand is accreting or moving through the shoreline. So, yeah.
I also looked at some of the existing infrastructure on the site. The bathrooms that exist within the park are actually located on the county portion. So there is no bathroom on the DHHL side of the park. And we understand that the water services have been cut off here and the bathrooms are boarded up. So they're no longer usable for any park visitors. We studied the drainage and water flow patterns across the park to see how when heavy rains come down, where that water moves, where it pools on site. We located some infrastructure in this portion of the park that is no longer in use. There's a irrigation system that appears to be broken, no longer working, and also some electrical utilities that were placed up here as part of the hula mound, and they are no longer in operation anymore. We did find a water meter on the site, so water services are provided for the Canoe areas and the Mackay area.
And there's a water line that does come down that's county water line, and also traverses up on the upper side of the property. We're also able to confirm that there is a existing sewer line that sort of traverses the top portion. It's not shown right now, but comes at a diagonal into the property. We actually have our engineer here tonight, and we're still confirming if that's an active line or not, but it is built infrastructure in that portion of the park. So something for us to be mindful for as we start to look for the opportunities of improvements, to be aware of the existing infrastructure, what still might be usable or salvageable, what might need to be removed or held in place. And again, we'll figure these things out as we get into some specifics on physical design. And I guess, I'm thanking Janice here behind me. She's I call her the Zoom keeper, like a zookeeper. So she's handling all of our tech and whatnot. And so I do see other people coming in. So Kalamai, if I don't explicitly say hello to you folks facing the screen, but again, if you're coming in now, welcome to our meeting this evening on Malama Cultural Park, and we're glad to have you. Again, I'll turn it back over to Cody to continue the finance.
Yes. And thank you, Janice, for being our eye in the sky, helping us through our technical challenges earlier. So through our conversations, we started to learn about who's using this park, what are the existing uses and users that exist here. So in this Mauka portion of the park is a raised pahula, so a platform for performances, and a sloped amphitheater where folks can come and gather and watch performances. Now, we tried to ask around and ascertain if anyone was actually using this space for performances or for practicing hula, but this time we haven't been able to identify anybody. So if you do know anybody who is using this space presently, please let us know. You can type in the chat box or jump off and let us know if you do know of anybody using this space. So here in the Mackay portions of the park are two canoe clubs, the Va'a Ka Paimua Canoe Club and the Molokai Canoe Club. So both of these are very active canoe clubs in the area. And I really like this photo. This is from a 2017 regatta. You see all the cars parked along the wharf, all the excitement, the families gathering. And I think this is just a really beautiful photo that illustrates the type of energy and activity that can take place here. And if we can harness that energy and make Malama Cultural Park a real focal point for more family activities and recreation and greater opportunities for the community to come together throughout the year. That's really the goal of this plan. So some of the key concerns that we heard through our past conversations, we learned that rubbish on site is a real issue. Folks coming, leaving trash. There's no trash cans on the site or trash pickup. We observed some trash and litter in certain areas during our site visit. Another key concern was access, whether or not folks could come to the park or not, and whether the public could use this space. There were some keep out, no trespassing signs around the perimeter of the park, and that's caused a lot of confusion amongst the community. And then safety was another key concern. So again, we showed this jailhouse picture here, kind of crumbling structure that could cause injury. But we also heard issues about poor lighting at night and folks just generally not feeling safe in the area. But this is a beautiful park and a really special place. And I really love this picture as well. So these are murals that were painted along the side of the historic way station. all saying the word Malama. And these are all the community voices, community paintings made by the people. And I think this really illustrates the community's tremendous sense of pride and aloha for this park.
Yeah. So this concludes the part one, which was mostly, it's a very high level. I mean, there's a depth of knowledge on any one of these topics, but we want to give you a taste and flavor of sort of the Ike gathering portion through the technical studies and other kinds of things. Part two that Cody will lead us into really will highlight the things we've heard both in the July 2020 meeting as well as our October meeting and some of our smaller conversations in between. I do know Cora's question, if we're taking questions via, I mean, it's a small group here. It looks like there's a couple of folks from the community here this evening. If you have a question, feel free to put it in the chat, or you can unmute yourself if you have a question on a part. We do have another section where we do get into a more engaging back and forth with all of you. So however you see fit for yourself, if you have a question that's pressing on you right now, feel free to just put it into the chat. Ask us.
Yeah, aloha. This is Cora. I wanted to hold off, but at the same time, I wanted to address some of your slides that you folks have shown. I have questions around those slides, and do you want me to hold off? I can hold off too. Up to you folks.
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. On your slide, and mahalo for this evening. I actually got a little late, but I several questions really. There was a study on a contamination study. My question was around the area that you've identified DHHL was pretty much the hot spots. And so what was the outcome of your contamination study? I last was there on, the last time I heard you folks was in October. And at that time, it was a study that you guys were doing, but I didn't know the outcome of it. And then my concern was also king tide. So those are my outcomes of the last time we met in October. The other thing that you showed was the ocean side. I appreciate the 4 different directions. The ocean side, I would have to agree with, sorry, Brad, I don't know your name, but I have to agree that those sand comes and go depending on the tide and depending on the season. So you might not get that much sand if you would come in the winter versus in the summer, or yeah, it all depends on the season. My other concern was, well, I don't know if it was a concern, but my eyebrows kind of raised a little, I guess you could say, was we talk about water meter on the DHHL area. My concern was who is responsible for the water meter that is active? Why is there a chain if it's DHHL? Is it open for the community or not? Because of the hula mounts. I never thought we were able to go there as a community member. There's a chain locked, and it doesn't seem as green as it used to be. The other thing I had concern was all the opala is either from homeless or from the people that utilize the Canoe area. As far as the community, we're not even allowed. It's always chained up, so it always assumed as if the community is not even able to access the area at all. So I just wanted to just shed some light on what I've observed, and so there you go. I put that on the table for discussion. Thank you.
And look to Cody here, but if you can maybe help address some of the questions and concerns.
Yeah, absolutely. I think starting off with the soil study, I believe that's an ongoing study. There's another environmental firm that's specifically looking at that, and I don't believe that the report of that has been completed yet. So we will absolutely fill in the community once we have an idea of what's going on. As
So-
far as the coastal concern about the sand levels, absolutely the sand, the coast shape of the beach changes throughout the year. And the technique that we use to measure this beach slope can be used throughout the year to monitor how the sands are building up and growing and then going offshore seasonally. And so it's a really great tool to use to monitor the long-term health of the beach. In general, the long-term trend shows that this beach is accreting over time, but we definitely want to keep an eye on that as the sea levels rise to see if that trend changes in the future. About access, I think that's something that we understand your concern, absolutely, and that's something this plan will try to address is managing access to the park.
Water speed or water source, water meter.
And the water meter. So we understand the Molokai Canoe Club is presently paying for the water bill. And so the water is controlled by the Canoe Club at this time. And that's something we hope to resolve with this plan again in the future is how to manage the water resources on site. And when this does become a more fully functioning park, how to manage that in the future. And Opala, note taken that the sources of trash. We understand that right now that there is no trash pickup, trash services, and it's all community volunteer based. So the canoe clubs are taking care and malaming their areas. We understand there's also some other community members who are malaming certain areas and caring for those areas, but the trash is a concern and something that we hope to address moving forward as part of this planning process.
Aloha, this is Sybil. I'm the president of a Kalamula Mako Homestead Association. I'm also a member and a coach of the Wa'akapai Mua Canoe Club. And I just want to make sure to let you guys know that the canoe clubs are the ones who actually take really good care of our area. And yes, Opala has been an issue because every time when we go down, we always have to pick up the rubbish is around. And I want to know how DHHL will be addressing the homeless, because homeless in that area is the issue. A lot of transient comes over there because, it looks warming, nobody's around, nobody gonna scold you and tell you forget out. So they traverse more often. I know at the time pre-COVID when there were events at the yacht club, some of the Opala would come from, the parties that were there or events that were there during the weekend. And so, a lot of our members would have to go around and we usually malama the area that we take care of. As far as the water is concerned, the water that you mentioned regarding the canoe club is strictly only for access with the canoe club. I know one of our concern was water being accessible to the rest of the property. Because the water line that you're actually talking about specifically is only the water line that runs to the county pipe that comes and services both of the canoe clubs. So other than that we pay for that, yeah. The canoe clubs pay for that. It's not DHHL line. And we pay from to county line. So I just want to get that clear because the issue has been water and we constantly raise that up because nobody wants to take responsibility. Whether the water meter sits on the county, whether the water meter sits on the DHHL. So that is one major concern. So thank you, Carl, for bringing that up, that we would want DHHL to address is those type of infrastructures. And sorry I came in late and I forgot all about this meeting, but I'm glad I came in the way I went, and I apologize to Cody because I've never seen your part one, but before I wanted to comment, I actually wanted to see the rest of your presentation. But because Cara addressed some of the concerns, I just kind of wanted to say for the record, yeah, as being part of Wa'akapai Mua Canoe Club, that that's we malama that area. we make sure that we take care where we utilize that space. And rubbish, Opala is the concern because, like I said previously, so I just wanted to address that. So mahalo.
Oh, thank you.
Mahalo. Appreciate that.
I got just two more and then we can move on. No, it's different. I just wanted to know, is there a MOA between DHHL and a county in the access of of the restrooms, and also that other significant site like that, the one that sits in a county, the old courthouse or old jailhouse or whatever it was. I don't know what it was, but for the restroom, is there a MOA between DHHL and the county?
Andrew.
To my understanding, no, there's no current MOU or agreement with the county.
I was just wondering with the canoe race like that, anyway, that just was a thought, because that was a lot of money that went put into that. It's a lot of our income taxes that went into that, and to see it just go and not utilized or not kept up, poho, right? Poho. Anyway, I just wanted to bring it to you guys' attention.
Yeah, so no, you raise a good point, and so there's one layer of sort of the again, I'm just a consultant speaking, what we understand, but we have had some early conversations with DPR, and so for now, like I said, for now, we're moving forward with the assumption that anything we do here within the DHHO portion would be supported by improvements specifically for this portion of the park, meaning, how do I say this like politely here? I think right now it's creating an MOU, I won't say it's impossible, but I think right now where each agency may be in the prioritization of addressing improvements to their respective areas, DPR may be in a different state of preparedness than where we are looking to move forward. So we won't put it off the table, but we may have to look at options where we just have to take care of our own needs at this present time. So.
Okay, and then my last question, for real, we can move on. I wanted to know who's paying for this ongoing contamination study, and also, have you guys estimate the cost of what this project gonna be approximately? Is there any figure on this project?
In terms of the contamination, again, that's outside of our G70 scope. That's with another entity, and maybe Andrew can help address that relation.
So, clarification on that. So that's not a DHHL boundaries?
So the study that I think you're referring to, Cora, was initiated by the neighboring landowner, Chevron. I think they were required to do a study because of their activities that could be potentially contaminating. So they were required by, I think, the Department of Health to do the study on DHHL land. So they are the ones that are funding the study and responsible for its completion. The second question, Corey asked, is what is the cost? I think we'll get into it a little bit later, but right now, as we don't know what improvements we're going to be making. This planning process was supposed to help us identify potential improvements. But having said that, and I'll probably say it again later in the meeting, the department's priority right now is to look at investing in projects that provide more homesteading lots. So right now, NAIVA is kind of first on deck to provide the infrastructure to those lots. And then later on, we'll be starting the planning process for the Kuleana homestead lots in Wahapue. So having said that, because our priority is homesteading, the amount of resources the department is going to invest into Malama Park is probably not going to be very much, because we want to focus our resources for new homesteading opportunities.
Okay, thank you. You answered my question. Thank you, all of you. Thank you.
And so as we go through,
Sorry, I have a question about that, Andrew, since Cara brought that up, because I know when we were going through our 2019 Molokai Island regional plan, Malama Park was one of the priorities, the past, the 2010. So the update and the reason why it didn't become a priority project in the 2019 regional plan, because they had specific funding to do Malama Park, because it was a pretty stagnant because of the transition from land ownership from one state agency to another. And so the regional plan, or when we were going through the process, it was stated that DHHL had specific funding. So I'm not sure if this is the funding of the planning process and not more of the implementation. So maybe you can clarify that when in regards to funding for Malama Park. And I understand the idea of homesteading, but I know that there are ways that we can outsource funding resources if necessary. And I know it's more of a management. I know the question was who can be able to take on this type of management when we move forward to Malama Park, which would be another discussion. But for this discussion is clarifying the funding portion. Thank you.
So I guess to clarify the funding portion, it was to fund this planning effort. So it was a one-time funding effort for this planning process. We're going to have to look at long-term options for funding the operation and maintenance of the park day to day. So this is kind of what the planning process was meant to help with, is to identify long-term solutions for the management of the park over time and work with the community to find a solution together and have these conversations. It's not going to be an easy solution to arrive at, and that's why we're investing the time to go through a planning process to figure out what people want, but also what are some steps that we can take towards getting to that vision and desired uses of the park. So no, thank you for outlining some of the current issues that you folks face when you use a park, like litter, the homeless. So it's good to help us identify those issues so that we can figure out what the solutions are through this planning process.
Thank you, I appreciate it.
To Sybil and Cora, I mean, you guys raised some really good points. I think, again, the way we're envisioning this is, as we get into some of the details of what are like the key elements of improvements we'd like to see, we start to actually literally map that out into physical space. We work with the engineers and others to then even do some preliminary high-level pricing of site improvement and even like some high order magnitude costs for specific improvements. Now the question becomes, especially with what Andrew is sharing here, if this is going to be a community-driven, community-initiated park, and questions of in the near future, because we're going to have those probably in our next meeting, different management strategies, how we could phase in our approach to do certain improvements early on that have sort of lower cost thresholds, looking for funding sources. Would there be an entity to be a qualified 501c3 where you can chase additional funding under grants? So we're going to try to piece all that together here in the next 7-8 months together. So again, appreciate the question. They're keeping us on our toes, and between this meeting and the next meeting, hopefully we can start to have some of those more robust conversations on the management strategy and implementation as well. So thank you for your patience on that. And I'm looking at Cody because I do know he has a couple more parts to share here. So maybe we can just, not quickly, but just get through part 2 in terms of the reporting back of our meetings.
Thank you, Kavik, and thank you everyone for your questions. There will be some additional time for feedback at the end, hopefully, as well. So just quickly to go over what we've learned from you folks so far from our past conversations. And we really heard about the importance of canoe culture. Malama Cultural Park has always been a place for canoeing since ancient times. It is said it's the heart of canoe paddling in Molokai. And folks came here with their parents, with their grandparents. It's a place where people grew up and canoed. We heard about the concerns of sea level rise, about flooding, There's already flooding happening at the park, and that could only get worse in the future. We heard that this is, a place for perpetuating Hawaiian history and culture. Folks have shared a vision for the park as a place for fostering intergenerational knowledge and to develop the next generation of land and ocean stewards. We heard from tonight and from past conversations, the frustration with lack of action. There's been these past plans that have been made, and just there hasn't been much movement on that. So we understand that frustration and sadness. Again, confusion about park access, whether or not it's open for the public to use or not. We heard about the importance of park management. This plan really needed to focus on maintenance and stewardship of this place. And lastly, we heard about how this place is special. That folks have a real deep patina to this place, and they spoke about it being an oasis and a place for healing and for fellowship. This was a question that we posed during the last meeting. Which of these most accurately describes your vision for the Malama Cultural Park? And you can see it was pretty, for the most part, spread pretty evenly amongst these top 4 options. A safe and family-oriented space, an active recreational area, a natural area focused in education and preservation of resources, and a dynamic marketplace for arts, music, and culture. We then had a group of small group meetings. This is a list of some of the folks we've talked to from Molokai Canoe Club, Aho Kukui, so the neighboring canoe club, Commissioner Zachary Helm. We've also had some conversations with various state and county agencies as well, just to get a better idea of what some of the issues are in the project, in the park location and the vicinity.
So with this EK in place, maybe I'll stop here, and then again, that was a quick summary of again, this the conversations we've had with you folks and others, and then some of the initial agency coordination we're trying to do, especially here on the engineering side. This really starts to inform us, and typically when we start to do these kinds of projects in terms of casting vision to get to a physical plan, it's usually very iterative, meaning that we'll sit with 20, 30 people and we go through an exercise just to get people to articulate some key sentiments and move forward. Here, again, for you tonight, you're kind of representing that legacy that's come since the 90s. So we didn't want to start from scratch. So, but having a vision statement, which was interesting, that the 95 plan really didn't articulate one, really out there. We thought, okay, well, we want to take all of this perspective and try to do our best to articulate. So in terms of what is a vision statement, it's supposed to be something that inspires, motivates, it's a place of reference that you can come back to. So when you're trying to look at options of activities and whatnot, you can sort of take that action activity and kind of contrast it to, well, is this helping me to get the vision into a point of reality? And so, Cody here has been working, or the entire team has been working to sort of start to think about that and how we can start to set some short-term and long-term goals. We heard through one conversation this idea of Whaipai Kapuhaku, where literally we're laying down foundation, right? We're laying down the tenets and principles of really you folks as a community, and making sure that we're hearing that. And we hear this often in our local community that it's definitely a kako thing. It's all of us together. It's not us Mako. It's not you guys Oko or Olua. It's really all of us together representing our different pieces of the puzzle and how we work together to get to a plan. So
just to highlight some of the themes and sentiments that were shared during past planning efforts. So going back to that 1995 plan, we wanted to lift those up and use some of those key ideas towards building to a vision today. So this highlights some of those key ideas. So as far as uses, the park has always been a place for canoe paddling, for makihiki, arts and crafts events. It was a place to sell those arts and crafts, and even have farmers markets and raise money that could go towards sustaining the park. And the real aim was to establish a community-based management model so that the park could be sustained in the long term. That 95 plan had an idea that the park would be a place for learning, for discovery, for connecting people to the place, to the aina. It also really emphasized the importance of hula, and it described Molokai as the pico of hula in Hawaii. That past plan really dove into the palina, the connection to this place, for connecting community members as well as connection to the aina. And the park's central location on the island and within Kaunakakai even made it a perfect gathering place for people from all across the island to come together. And it was also expressed as a place for to connect Kaunakakai town to the ocean, to have a break from the city, get out of the town and experience the ocean and have that relaxing that moment. And kuleana was another key theme. The plan really wanted to cultivate a sense of kuleana and all in it together mentality, as well as stewardship based on Malama Aina principles. And then we also wanted to highlight some of the themes and sentiments shared during our past consultation meeting, past October. So these are some of those key ideas. As far as uses, again, the park is a place for paddling, for hanapa'a, for surfing, collecting limu. These are things people remember doing here in the past. There's a real sense of pride that this is our beach. It's a place where people felt connected to their ohana, to the aina, and it was described as an oasis where people could gather and rest and find relief from the hot sun. Some of the core values that were shared. This is a place to honor, preserve, and celebrate Molokai's rich culture. It's a place to practice nature-based education, to teach the next generation to Malama Aina, and to Malama themselves through recreation, building healthier bodies, learning about teamwork, and bonding with the community. It was described as a place for fellowship, a place for healing, and really, folks wanted this to be a safe and welcoming place, a place where everyone feels welcome. And it should be a place where DHHL beneficiaries can come together all as one and to celebrate. So we took those words and we made this visualization here. So this image highlights some of the keywords that you shared with us during our last meeting and from the past planning efforts. You may notice aina shows larger here. That's because it was mentioned several times by multiple participants. And it was really a key theme and value that we heard expressed from you. Some of the other key ideas here: gathering, kuleana, culture, oasis, ohana.
And just to really so before we actually started tonight's presentation, we had a little bit of time to just kind of center our thoughts and just so happen. I think we always get inspired. I like to get inspired by music, and because it's Molokai for me, I have a natural affinity to connect to George Helm's music, and so we started to listen to George Helm music, and then we actually started to listen to the piece by Kaholawe Ohana talking about sort of the legacy, right? So he has a line in there that's very specific about making a distinction between land and aina, right? So, in reference to Kaholawe specifically, he said, this is not just a rock. This is aina. This is a place that feeds and gives. It's a giver of life. It helps sustain, create connection. So, to me, hearing this word for us, again, we have our understanding, but to really kind of dive into the depths of the details of really focusing on what does aina mean to this community, something we'll want to explore just a little bit more. But that being said, again, these are the collective of your words, the community's words, and so we took a first attempt to try and put this together into a preliminary vision statement. Again, I want to emphasize preliminary. Sort of highlighting what were the key things that were said or the emphasis that were placed upon it. This is a statement we wanted to share with you folks tonight. Again, and we're a small group, so probably easier that we just come off of mute and provide some feedback or impact. But if this kind of feels good and looks good, or there's questions on some words and yeah, Kavika, good, but maybe I gotta think about it some more. You know, we definitely don't want to sort of shove this down your proverbial throats. We want people to kind of read it, feel it, think about it, and if so prompted to respond to it. So let me just say it out loud. So it's an oasis, well, so an oasis rich in cultural tradition and a place for Ohana to gather. Malama Cultural Park is aina, where Kuleana has and continues to be carried forward from generation to generation. It may seem, you know, not vague, but very general, but the intention is, again, a value statement is something that when we start to think about specific uses or prioritization of uses, because now one of the challenges will be, if we're looking at the 95 plan, which did cover the land base of both where the DPR authority is and DHHL, you know, we can't fit all of those uses onto just one space. So again, we'll get into those conversations about sort of addressing a prioritization of use, but also are those uses activities that we want to explore, come back and really help to address and fulfill the intentions of the vision. So maybe I'll just stop there, and if people have questions or, you know, something that, you know, like something springing in the and you want to share, you know, please.
Okay, it's Cora. I like the first round of putting a vision statement. I would want to, I mean, it looks great. I wouldn't want, I mean, I would want to find another word for oasis.
Okay.
But I think the others, I think, you know, I mean, sounds great, you know, for the first round. Oasis, the oasis. I mean, it's a great idea. I get it. I get the idea, but it just sound too Western. I mean, you went from a Western point of view to a cultural point of view, and I think oasis, maybe there's another word in the Hawaiian cultural, you know, traditional description, maybe. Anyway, but it's really sounds great though. I mean, except for the oasis.
No.
No,
That's all my cut. Okay, so that's good. So that would be, what was our category? Like nice, but maybe that needs improvement. Change a few things around. And we anticipated that, right? We, you know, maybe go back to the slide with all the words, right? I mean, we actually sat with these words quite a long time, and it's like, you know, we can't put every single word in there, so we're trying also to find the right word. But I know Oasis came up in one of our last meetings, but Cora, I hear you, and I don't want to put words into your mouth, but, you know, I would say then as a community, you know, would you guys think of this as everything from a kipuka to a pico or to something else, a punana, you know, a nest, or is it something else, a bahi, kupuna, or whatever, right? So I've also asked if there's words that you feel prompted in your spirit. Again, you may not have them tonight, but again, you know, we have means to communicate with us. There's ways to access the website for the, oh, we didn't actually talk about the Survey Monkey, but there's a Survey Monkey that you can, I think, also share someone now. Okay, thank you, Cora. Anybody else, Sybil or?
Yeah, I have mana'o. I want to comment, and you know, so I'm pretty straightforward. So I call them if I offend anybody, but I don't even remember being a part of the October one. I'm looking at what was presented. I don't think I was. So I'm sorry that I haven't been participating, but one thing for tonight, I mean, for 12 of us being participants and probably half of you guys being staff and consultants and only a little handful of us, kind of hard to not have all the players involved right now to discuss this type of, you know, importance. Like I said, I came in probably like towards the ending of Cody's presentation, but I don't know if you guys captured so much history there is there in Malama Park. So that's why I said I kind of apologize if that has already been said and vetted and included. What you guys don't know that I've already seen, that, you know, where the area is where Va'akapaimua Canoe Club is wetlands. So we also have we've been working with Kaunakakai Elementary School and developing and understanding more of the native area and the native species in that area. And we actually put in a piezometer test and work with the kids in understanding and learning their environment and understanding that wetlands area, and to determine if it is a wetlands area and how, if we are going to be stewards of that area in the long term, how are we going to be able, exactly what the word says, Malama. And I don't know if you guys went through the Malama Platform that is historical, the cultural deposits that was over there historical, Olo Wharf that was created inside that area, and even resonating to what it was once called, because our Prince Hill that created this legacy of the Hawaiian Homestead Act would come right into Kaunakakai on his canoe and visit. And that was one of his areas, his favorite, one of his punaheles. And so that area was called Kalai'okamanu. And the reason why it was Kalai'okamanu, because at one point was sandy beach, that whole South Shore, never had one wharf. And all you could see is white sandy beach, whether you're looking to the left or whether you're looking to the right. And there's a lot of native birds over there. Yeah, so the plovers, which would come in, and that's the name Kalai'okamanu, because it resonated that's where the point of the birds were. So I don't know if you guys know the mo'olelos in that area. Yeah, and it is where the plovers used to settle in the evenings, and just the reflection. And the reason why it was Kalai'okamanu is when the chiefs look at that area and the plovers remind them of those children of that place, that the children of Molokai would be able to enjoy the place of that area, and understanding that Kaunakakai was the resting beach in that area. And now today it's the central district of Molokai. So I don't see any of that. I don't see the idea of what and how much history and how much ike just that place alone holds. And I agree with Cora, because Oasis does not resonate, but it's pretty. And I don't know how much like mana'o or mo'olelos or looking into our cultural practitioners, those that come in that place, that knows that area, that you guys got documentation of, because you know, there's a lot. And unfortunately, under your small group meetings, I never even see Wakapaimo Canoe Club or any of the homestead associations around that area. And yeah, I wouldn't feel comfortable right now in trying to come up with one vision statement when only get 3 or 4 of us that really come from this place. You know, because homestead association, we've been dealing with this for a while. You know, we've been talking about this. We had our own little meetings, as well as the canoe clubs. And I'm super surprised that Auntie Penny's not here, and you guys didn't even catch her mana'o. So I'm kind of saddened by that. And I wouldn't know how you guys would even proceed to even capture everyone's essence to make this place more profound in the way that it should be. So that's my mana'o.
No, all good on my kind. Not offended by anything you said there. So I guess maybe a couple of points of clarification, or maybe just giving some further feedback. So that listing of small groups was specific and distinct from both the beneficiary consultation and I call it the leadership, but the first meeting where we did have that representation that you're speaking of. But Sybil, you're actually right. You know, again, I just feel sometimes this virtual way we interact. You know, I think people. It's been over a year, so we were hoping for 50 people, and we're glad we have the people that's here tonight. I would feel like you if I was on your side of the proverbial coin of like, well, where is Auntie Penny and other people to kind of give their mana on this? To speak to your question about like sort of depth and breadth of the information, you know, please rest assured, this was more like a highlight reel, if you will, of the things we started to look at. Because tonight we wanted to focus on sort of how we wanted to get into vision to talk about the evaluation of uses. But yeah, there was an archaeological reconnaissance study that sort of amplified the information you're sharing. I think you also shared something that we did not know about, especially with the arrival of Kuhil and the place being Kalaiwakamanu as another name. We tried to ascertain and try to understand some of the movements of the sun and the moon in this area in terms of cultural knowledge in Ike, but there is a documented study. Additionally, I'm looking back here to my colleague, Janice here helped to conduct the initial natural resource assessment. I don't want to put her on the spot, but if you want to give a glimpse of what you did and give some of the quick takeaways of findings. That might also be informative to the work here. And again, this is not our EK to keep, but as we work on behalf of the department and the community, as we have this information, we want to get it out to you guys. Again, at the end of the day, you guys are really the true keepers of this knowledge. But I guess to Sybil's point or question, we do recognize the depth, and I think we're still trying to walk cautiously. And I think once we get into some physical planning, we do actually have some thoughts about how we keep certain things in reserve, if you will, especially the wetlands and the platform area. Probably create a sense of buffers, and then maybe talk about what's appropriate and authentic to have in those spaces in terms of, do we need a pavilion or somewhat maybe a traditional hale that is a place of arrival, welcome, orientation, by which then if it's students or if it's practitioners get themselves oriented to the place, sort of that threshold, if you will, before they either enter the wetland area to conduct some activities or perhaps helping with the restoration of Malama Platform.
So let me ask you this: is this the area or the space where we do this type of discussion and brainstorm and think? Because we're missing a lot of people here. I mean, like I said, we've been working with the Kanoe schools. I mean, working with the other canoe clubs. I mean, we're envisioning a lot, but if they're not on the table that they're making these visionary plans how they see their Malama Park, then, I really like bring them back to this table. I mean, even the concept of how Kilia Pond is, having one refuge, one area where you can have a boardwalk system and allow the kids to come to learn about the native, how you even restore one wetland, even including one haleva'a, to keep those canoe clubs there for be able to carry on these cultural traditions, and kind of looping around with the homesteads, because they had their vision. When we first heard about DG Chow having this land to be transferred, I mean, of course we're going to come together and kind of figure out as a community, how we want to see this place to be utilized, and like how you guys look back in the 95 master plan and what it is, how it is, and how we want it to be, and where we want to go with it. Like I said, we had so much discussions between between these community members, so much and was good and heartfelt because people came with their mana'o. So if this is the place where they should be so that they can share that ike, then I mean, I would strongly recommend that, and like since I put them on the floor, I'm willing to, share that with them so that they can actually be on the table, so that is my mana'o.
Oh, Sybil, thank you for that. And I just wanted to let you know that, I just speak for myself. I am disappointed with the number of beneficiaries and members of the community that are here tonight. So I just want to let you know and assure you that tonight we're just collecting mana'o and we're not making any decisions or final decisions on this plan. But we're grateful for the people that are here and are taking the time to share their mana'o. So tonight we're just collecting mana'o and we're not making decisions on it. And I think later in the presentation, we're going to go over kind of the future meetings that we're going to have. But I think based on the turnout tonight, we're going to have to rethink our strategy a little bit. So I just wanted to let you know that.
I'd like to chime in. Mahalo, Andrew and Sybil, and I've also conducted my own experience meetings where I would go out and solicit and do the best I can. And sometimes you do have a poor show up, and I'm not, I'm totally always for the community, get me wrong. But then we also as community members need to take accountability that you folks, the HHL and your consultants, you guys do the work. And it's really hard work. And look, you burning the candles on both sides, Andrew. You work during the day and you attend these night meetings. And so, I totally can empathize what you guys go through. And I want to mahalo you folks. And I want to apologize for our community members that for whatever reason, that there is a poor show up. But I'm happy to hear that we are not making any decisions because our people are very passionate. And so with that being said, I just want to say mahalo and I'm glad that we're not making any decisions. Thank you.
Mahalo for that, Cora. And I just want to say, you don't need to apologize for the community. I think, people have other kuleana and we are aware of that. And we will try to our best to make more opportunities and make an effort to make more opportunities so that people can feel good about what's in this plan and they can see themselves in the plan. So we can try our best to do that. But yeah, so we'll just take your folks mana'o, but just know that we're aware that this isn't the community. I mean, this isn't the entire community, but we'll take your mana'o, but not say, oh, this is it. This is the final thing. So
this is a complete process. I think on the consultant side, speaking of our team, we're excited. We want to give the community what it wants. We don't also want to waste time and energy if people are really feeling like, hey, the 95 plan that had, the manao of our kupuna or people who, maybe could not even be here anymore in this realm, but to honor that. So I think to validate the ideas and the statements, again, we're not making a decision tonight. I think what would be probably, I'm just kind of talking in draft now. I get Zoom fatigue every day. I think we all get probably Zoom fatigue. So, I mean, we try our best with virtual. We're trying to provide information, I think, like on the website, but nothing beats being able to kind of gather together. And we did really want to come out for this meeting in person, be on island, spend time, meet you guys, share a meal if we could, right? And walk the aina if necessary together. But because again, things were with COVID, I think some of us just got our second vaccination shot recently. In fact, I think Pi'ilani, one of our team members, just got his today. So mahalo to Pi'ilani for even like standing up right now. When I took my second shot, I was knocked out for the rest of the night. But that being said, this is a good time to pause and maybe we can strategize together with you, Sybil, Cora, and others to figure out how maybe we can convene in a way that people can come and let's sit and talk. So whether it's through a virtual meeting.
Mahalo for that, because I was just going to invite you to our next Molokai Mokupuni meeting and put you on the agenda. So I will touch bases with you. Thank you.
What is that? Just maybe just kind of think about it.
It's usually fourth Thursdays of the month, 5:30 to 7:30. It is Zoom. So I'll email you offline and then we can coordinate by then. Mahalo. But because we're looking at the vision statement, and to me, like how you said, the vision statement gotta resonate to everyone, though, those that utilize that area, those that come either just for the moment or staying there for staying in that area, and we want to capture that essence. And for me, there's so much ike around that I think that should be shared with you guys as a consultant, so you guys can hear from us and others that share that area and how much that place means to them. So I like me, I can only share for myself how I value this area and how I utilize this space and how I look at this from generations to generations and how this place can be for me and my like my kupunas, my keiki, my mo'opunas, and as well as Cara and Uncle Zach and Uncle Charles, who's on this. So yeah, mahalo at least for this time that we could share them on our own. But for me, the vision statement really has to resonate with the true people that come from that place, and we'll be utilizing that place. And just by looking at it though, I like it because it does, you know, you like capture the culture tradition, but for me, when you say it, what does it mean to you? Yeah, how will you capture that? And a place for ohana to gather, whether you keiki, whether you kupuna, makua, and how we're going to be able to take care of that aina, and how does that kuleana look, you know, to us. Like, you know, I can only speak, like I said to myself, like when we were talking about it in Waka Paimua Canoe Club, like I said, looking at Kealia fish pond down in Ma'alaya Kihe area, and how, you know, we invite the visitors, you know, we even had one idea of inviting visitors to this place, creating that boardwalk, creating that space of education so that they know and understand, you know, what is one kolea, or what does it do? What is a kuli kuli? You know, how does this help the environment, and how you can take care? So it's not only for us to educate our own people and our keiki and the elementary schools, but those visitors that come from all over the place, you know, wherever they're from, to understand and how we take care of that place. So it comes full force. So when we speak this vision, this statement, that's how, you know, that is how we want it to resonate with others. So mahalo for allowing me to share.
Right? So we're speaking life to this place in memory and whatnot. Oh, I'm smiling looking at Cody as you're talking, because again, in our magical world of desire, we're expecting like, oh, we can have like 50 people tonight, and then so the intention here, actually, we might as well just go into the next. So again, we're not going to really take any. Well, we're just going to take the EK as it's being shared, but the intention of this process was they started to have like 3 specific questions. And Sybil, you kind of hit on the nose. We wanted to dive deep into 3 questions, kind of taking like almost like 10 minutes each for people to, you know, brainstorm, share, chat, whatever. These 3 questions are also part of our Survey Monkey, right? That's on the line.
The website.
So if people want to actually start, so we have 3 questions. The first one was, what does aina mean to you, right? We all have our definition, and again, each perspective of a homestead association member or community member, that word by itself is coded, if you will, by your experiences, by your perspective. And so if it's the key part of the vision statement, if we're saying Malama Cultural Park is aina, then what does that actually mean? So that was or is question 1. Question 2 was you know, we understand, you know, Ba'a tradition, we understand hula, but are those the only 2 traditions there? Is it Lawai'a? Is it just even the idea of, you know, Mauli Ola, Ola Kino, like, I mean, this is a place we like to holo vavai, or to watch the sunset, to be inspired, to take a break, take a breath. I mean, these are all part of the sense of wellness, if you will. So again, I don't want to put words in anyone's mouth, but we want to explore what cultural traditions are important in bringing old ideas forward, right? So even to the idea of the what we call the platform, it was a heiau, as some of us know, right? There's a spiritual ancestral connotation to that. It became La Kapuai was Hale, and then it became the site of the church, right? So obviously there is a important synergy or energy there that is drawn from this place. What would be the intentions or desires of the community? Like, do we want to just keep it coupled so there's no improvement, but maybe we just take care of the kiawe and the invasive and we plant something? Do we want to look to do more archaeological study to understand the depth, and do a field school to then understand the construction of it and understand the extent of it? You know, you sharing the factors and the extent of beach stand that used to be there. One of the first questions that, you know, we were asking is, hey, on one side of the pier, you got a lot of jockey sand. Jockey sand is usually indicative of the potential area for iwi kupuna. So that's a conversation in and of itself, right? To what level and depth of how we invoke sense of responsibility to carry forward traditions And yeah, that would have been the intention of question number 2, to hear from you folks and to kind of put that into our understanding as we think about design related responses. Question 3, and again, I'm happy to stop and come back to any of these if we want to talk tonight, or we just maybe sit with them, miku and them in our spirit, and then we come back later. You know, we centered on the idea of ohana. What does that actually mean in terms of what matters most here? Is it out there to gather? Is it to feel safe? Is it a place for kupuna to come and sit and share mo'olelo? Is it a place for families to come and have picnics and barbecues? I mean, you know, there's a range of things that we can define what matters most to ohana here. Again, we would want to hear from the ohana themselves. So
Alex share on that. So when DLNR, prior to DHHL's transfer to DHHL, DLNR had that area. And so DLNR planted all those Milo trees, you know, they created that hula mound, and that is where we had our Aloha Week. So we had Aloha Week festivals over there. We had events that was carried, and I think one of the 1995 plan stated is that it'll be an area of amphitheater. And that was the whole idea of having a gathering place because it's a central area. And during so had Aloha Week, had other community events. And I know you said earlier about having on market, and that's actually what we're actually looking at as well. Having that as one center hub where, homestead beneficiaries could come and do their open market there. So we had discussions on that, and wedding ceremonies. My cousin got married over there on the mound during DLNR's ownership. So so those are the things that you can think of when you look at that area. So I just wanted to share that.
Oh, thank you.
I wanted to chime in on these questions. I missed number 1, but number 2 was what I got here is our people gathering, gathering place. And I think Sybil hit it on the head because I got gathering place, a way of socializing and events that our people could, could sell their goods at a location in that area. The other thing that I was looking at was number 3, and it talked about ohana. I've been to so many seminars with trying to get strategy and helping our people with mental health problems and family situations, and it's so nice just to look at the aina and try to make the connection with our people. And so ohana, to me, met a way of supporting each other through activities like Canoe. It was a way of supporting our family members or extended friends, families in their activity, to be as a supporter if you're not participating. And then also a way of building relationship. When us Hawaiians, when we go make luau, it really is so awesome because it's all about relationships, about socializing as you prepare for a luau. And so to me, when we look at ohana, that's what I would look at. And the aina, I think that was number 1. I think the aina, I had a hard time because it's more than the surface.
Right.
Aina means more than surface. Aina means the root, being able to be cultivated into the aina. I mean, that's where we sort of came from. That's where our homesteaders came from, is tilting the land. So when you talk about aina, I'm talking about not only enjoying, but also working the aina. And it means so much. I couldn't even describe it. Aina means more than just the surface. That's all I wanted to say. Yeah. I got to come back to that.
So I'll add on that real quick, because that's exactly what we look at this place to be, is a lifeline. And if you look at it, it's our lifeline. So that is the only, Kaunakakai Harbor is the only harbor on our Molokai Island that has our shipping goods. 85 to 95% of our goods and services are imported and goes right there into our wharf. And so we consider that area our lifeline. So without that, you know, that's where we are. And it's a perfect, and the location and where we are and where we sit, it is prime to what you know, what Cara mentioned about cultivation and about looking at that aina, because I look at it as our lifeline. You know, without that harbor there, you know, like I said, 95% of our goods we would have to sustain ourselves. But you know, we're gonna work towards that. But that, when you look at that, that's what we look at. And socializing, she's on point. And I like what you said when you said holo holo. You know, even when you just looking at, you know, the sunset. And that's a very popular area where a lot of our locals go to take photographs. And it is because it captures the essence of life, of nature, of you know, of everything in its existence beyond who we are as who we are, you know. So mahalo for us sharing again.
Oh, no, this is great. And
Ibrahim, I don't know your name, but I just wanted to say that many, because of the profession I'm in, we tend to take our language, our mana that comes with language in a way. We lose when you start using the Western words or trying to label it in a concept of the Western way, you take away from the actual culture of itself. And but we're trying to describe it, right? So we speak English, we write English and all that, but I like to have the petitioners, whoever the practitioners are, they have more clarity as to what we're trying to describe in English, but put it in Hawaiian, because I don't want to lose the essence of what that area is all about. The area got so many significant sites. It would be such a beauty to emphasize those areas that are significant sites as part of the, you know, to really emphasize that, because that's what we know. We want to keep what we have, but which we no longer really have physically with us. I mean, I don't know if that makes sense, but whatever we have, that we're able to preserve it. I guess that's what I want to say. Thank you.
No, both you guys, mahalo nui for sharing. And then I hear you too, even on the Olelo, you know, again, got to work with Andrew folks on some of the work that we've done on Kauai. And so, for example, there, you know, specifically on West Kauai, we realized we were missing a segment by not being able to communicate ideas, even though they're modern ideas, but in how. So we actually worked with a cousin of mine who actually is fluent in Nihao. I know some Hawaiian. I can hold a conversation in sort of book school and what my great grandmother taught me. But the point of it all is, you know, the value of Ike in a way to express in Olelo Hawaii. Again, the vision statement here, yeah, because most of us as a general population understand English, but who's to say that this vision statement couldn't be all in Olelo Hawaii? And we actually could work together to actually make it crafted all in Olelo Hawaii if that's the way to go. You know, I would be happy to try and help facilitate that as well. Anyway, just want to be able to respond and share. And I guess I'm sorry, you know, if you didn't hear, I'm Kavika. I'm working with Cody and Janice on this project here. So again, everything the two of you guys are sharing this evening, you know, resonates with us. I think that was the intention. Again, hoping there was more voices here tonight. So again, this is just a start of a conversation. And again, we're not looking to finalize any plans tonight, but we do want to move forward. So I do appreciate any opportunity and or ability to work with you two to maybe at least get the word out that, hey, these guys are doing something. You guys need to come involved. And, you know, to the extent that we can just make choices about how we can come to Island and talk and sit together face to face, I think would be probably the best next step forward too. But anything in between that time that we can help on our side, you know, please don't hesitate to contact us. It is 8:10, so I feel in my now right now, like because we wanted to go sort of from vision to the articulation of ideas, asking the questions, and actually getting into design. I think that's a little bit premature here at this point in time, but I guess if you guys don't have any further questions, what I wanted to do perhaps with the time we did have remaining is that we can go to the slide of opportunities and constraints. But before we do that, you guys have any Manao or other questions for us before we move on? Okay. So can I drive with your mouse? Yeah. No, I can't do the mouse. It'll work. It'll work. Oh, it does. Does it? Is it going too far?
Come left.
Oh. Okay, I think I'm still in range. So what, okay, so for everyone's benefit, what you're looking at here is a combination of information that, as we're starting to think now in physical space, what we call opportunities and constraints. And so I want to point out a couple of things and maybe just start to walk you folks through this so we can start to maybe think about some ideas. So first of all, what you see here obviously is the project site delineated in this. What's that? You're not catching. Maybe I'll switch with you. Yeah, come on. Sorry, playing musical chairs here. Thanks, Cody. All right, does that work better? Nope. Well, oh, here. There you go.
There.
Okay. Okay. Oh, wait. Okay. So again, we already know this is the project area. Oh, please, no, it's kind of weird. This red line, so I'm gonna just talk to a couple of things. So obviously we have the wetlands. This is not a formal delineation, but it's our best representation based upon the maps we've been looking at some historical information. I think working with Janice, we did some GPSing of what we could determine to be the boundary. We also have the platform that's delineated here. We also put this buffer around the area. This is kind of a place starter, right? So we're looking to preserve and care for things. These are opportunities, but now in terms of like physical improvements, they can be seen as constraints where if we're going to focus on the wellness of the resource, then we want to sort of carve out this space of the physical. We have the existing parking lot here, the existing canoe shed. What's important here to point out is this red line that cuts through right around here. And that, in short, is the 150-foot shoreline setback. So if you're not familiar, there are rules and regulations of what you can and cannot do. Makai of that. If you have built structures, there's allowances underneath county rules relative to improvements you can make to existing structures, but really it becomes a limitation to building anything new per se. You can improve things that are there. And so that's what the point that.
So I got a big question because I don't see my canoe club over there. And I see you guys already made that proposed limits, but you guys already went and take out our canoe club. So with that being said, can you explain more on that? I see your proposed limits, and I know county has no jurisdiction on DHHL properties regarding to those kind of shoreline because they're mandated by federal law. So I kind of getting hot-blooded right now because you just went -1 canoe club on that.
So that's not the intention here. So maybe remind us where.
Can you explain what the map is supposed to represent?
Yeah, please do. Please do.
Yeah. So the map is a combination of information that shows where we can and cannot do certain activities. And I'm sharing like the context of the county line, Makai of that, from the standpoint that under typical rules, you're right. County would dictate now whether we could bypass those laws because again, it's a county rule. However, like for example, SMA and things are promulgated from rulemaking that comes from Chapter 205A, which is the state coastal zone, which actually gets passed down from federal. So they do have to abide from federal coastal zone management.
So to clarify, the map is showing what the physical characteristics are of the area and not existing uses. Is that correct?
It's on the western portion of the property. So that this is just showing that the physical structures. So
Well, we do have our physical structures and we do have all our canoes over there. We have one of the biggest fleets right inside there. So I mean, I don't know if I got to round up all my canoe club members and come and see you guys and knock on your guys' door, because to me, why we are existing. For me right now, the map does not reflect truly what is existing on that property. I mean, I don't like stop you guys in your guys' tracks, but you guys already missing something.
So thank you, Sybil. And again, we're not trying to light up your fire here. So I'm looking at Cody because we're gonna fix that. We'll put the appropriate structures on there. I'm not sure why it's not showing up. I promise you, I will work with our designer and our team here to put that information onto this map. So this is my team. I'm not casting blame on my team. I take that responsibility as the project manager. So if you want to get mad at someone, please get mad at me.
No, I call on my,
Oh,
but
no.
I just sharing because we look non-existent into this map. So but we exist. I'm telling you right now, we exist. It's just that we're not existing on your map right now. So I just try correct that. So a column on my end.
No, we will fix that. Rest assured, and we'll get back to you with the verification. So with that said, if you and I are good in that sense that we will fix it, then we can talk about some of these other pieces of information on this map. What you're also seeing here, again, we're showing the 4 historic properties, 3 of which are within the project area. We have the way station, we have the jailhouse, and we have the platform. Yeah, I'm just gonna pop in my hands now. Okay. So we do have these 3 areas here. What we heard from people from before, for different reasons, not just because of the dilapidated conditions of the jailhouse, but also maybe what it represented, as Cody was alluding to, in terms of its connection to internment, and is it the best representation? Like, there is a process if the community wants that to remove that structure, to remove maybe that bit of history that we don't necessarily want to celebrate and commemorate, or if people want to leave it and restore it, then we can work on that too. But what we thought was a great opportunity is this railroad way station from a couple of perspectives. One, it does signify, as you're saying, the lifeline aspect, right? This railroad way station played a part, at least that plantation history. Now, whether we want to look at some kind of adaptive reuse of all this concrete, what we do know is removing that much concrete can cost a lot of money. And so the fact that one side of it is being used as a space, if you will, for community artistic murals and things of that nature, it is a way we can think about something that's creative, where maybe you've got outdoor seating and the artistic murals happening together. So we would look to probably create an adaptive reuse for that space. The platform, as I mentioned, right, we would want to have conversations with practitioners and others knowledgeable to understand, okay, if we're talking about restoration, what are we restoring to? Who's going to be responsible for that restoration? What are those phases of restoration? What are the protocols that come with that over time? And so to me, the platform kind of goes hand in hand with the wetlands. We have both the natural and cultural resources working together. So if I do dare say, then we would not necessarily change much here, but perhaps even delineate a buffer zone or a place of ensuring that these resources are protected. That kind of leaves this puka here, maybe for some kind of structure. I think on the old plan, this was where the Malama Visitor Center was going to be, right? The arrival point. We were spewing ideas, that could be that kind of center if one was needed. Maybe it's an open pavilion. Maybe it's an opportunity to explore traditional hale. That could be a perfect space for something like that, to build that. But again, and I think it was you, Sybil, that were sharing that maybe there is a pathway of a boardwalk that's elevated and kind of cuts through here for access, but also for the learning opportunities, and to pivot people to look and pay attention to certain areas. Maybe it's a science station that has some lab equipment or something else that makes sense. As we go further in Malka, again, the alignment of trees, the fact we have this existing mound. I guess one thing I should explain is the blue. So what you're seeing here in this light blue is what the best predictive modeling that takes a bunch of information, everything from coastal inundation, past flood information, some runout modeling to suggest that within within our lifetime, I think the suggestion is 2050, that we'll see an approximate 3.2 foot sea level rise inundation. If you're taking what we understand to be the topography of this place now, everything you see in blue will be exposed, or i.e. could be subject to this 3.2 sea level rise. So it does pose interesting questions about, well, if we're trying to then, you can look at it two ways, right? Do we want to invite Kanaloa into this space? And if so, the choices we make relative to improvements may be about how to manage that water and that energy. Does it make sense to build things in here if we know within a 20, 30-year time frame, this area might be subjected to more than seasonal or occasional periods of flooding? So we wanted to show that, but there's also then design solutions. If we want to reserve some areas to build up, then we would actually have to address the 3.2 sea level rise possibility. In addition, when we look at other flood information, I believe base flood elevation here is 8 feet. So if you take the 8 plus the 3.2, then in some areas, anything that we propose as a structure may have to be built up to 11 feet. So you're talking about now either berming things up, bringing in fill, elevating structures up to a 10-foot level, which is kind of high if you think about it, right? So anyway, we're not throwing out solutions, we're just throwing out more questions and how we want to address these things. I'll stop there because that was a lot of words, and maybe give pause if you guys maybe have some thoughts or questions on anything I said. Okay, not seeing too much.
I just wanted to comment, this Cora.
Yeah.
You know, you did a really good job, except for leaving out Sybil's canoe shack.
No, I'm so sorry. I take the responsibility for our team, so we'll fix that.
Oh, well, putting jokes on the side, I really think you really captured a lot on this map, and I appreciate that. I do have some concerns about that sea level rise, and what you were just saying about, you know, do we want to invest in infrastructure just to have it been overtaken by water eventually? I think there's so much beauty in this area. I would like to see some sort of like sidewalks, cement benches, more trees, you know, just to beautify it. Kalakakai is really hot, you know, with more trees and maybe, you know, the water system, you guys, we definitely would have to talk and discuss the water. But I just wanted to make a comment that this mapping, I thought was pretty, it gave me a lot to think on. That's what I wanted to say. Thank you.
That's good feedback. Thank you, Cora. You know, so we've already explored some ideas. We're not prepared to share that tonight, but there are design responses related to coastal inundation and sea level rise that could be opportunities to, again, create an elevated boardwalk or some scenic areas, berming some areas with purpose to kind of then protect and allow other activities to be there. The existing mound that's there now, as you can see, is in white. So we do have, it's kind of funny that the Pahula and the sort of mound area, which was going to be the top of that amphitheater experience, at present are not subject to the effects of what we're seeing here as the run-up model 3.2 feet. There is other study that recently came out of the University of Hawaii, which was, I think, Oahu based. When I look at the South Shore specifically, right? Because of course, South Shore, you got places like Waikiki and Honolulu that need, you know, future protection. But there are some interesting things about creating more sort of green infrastructure in response to then, as sea level rise goes up, there's a way to maybe, I won't use the word capture because again, can't capture Kanaloa, but you work with the change of the environment, right? Because other than that, the solutions you're hearing, right, are either you're going to armor the coastline, which costs a lot of money, costs other impacts. You're going to move inland, right? So then we give up this space and we don't do anything here. Or you got to create vertical, right? You got to add land and mass. It's like the three typical solutions all have their pros and cons. there could be solutions in the internal. Maybe we're not putting trees in the ground. So again, now the salinity and the quality of the soil may change. We're going to have to develop salt tolerant plants, or in other areas where you've got species of plants that have adapted to high salinity content that could actually work here, work with the plants that are in the wetlands and start to create the next generation of keiki plants that could become in the area. You could work with planters for now to just create that sense of more shading and whatnot. I mean, so there are solutions we could look at, and that would again come with sort of the talking story that we're trying to establish here in the short time to come.
So I would want to recommend that if there's a way that you guys can look into the timeline. So, with sea level rise and the estimated time, I think was, you said 2050, on you're looking at a 3.2 Selexer scale feet, and how, and what would be the timeline? I would think kind of give us one picture and a timeline on these events and what we're planning ahead for. So if you saying that by year 2050, 3.2 feet of water going to hit that area, we in 2021. So we're going to plan this out for the next 20, 25 years. Because then, like you said, you guys are talking right now in a discussion of structures, looking at three options of thinking about structures. What I heard Cara say is more of an open space, yeah, or even keeping it as open space, but being able to also continue our traditional and customary practices that we've been doing in that area. So that is good to think about and to know. So when we are in our planning process, are we planning 10 years out, 20 years out, 50, like making one 50-year-old building, or when we actually have to retreat. So how much life usage does this place have so we can be able to utilize the way that we utilize it now? What can we implement and put in for future use? And what is the longevity of the future use that we're looking into? So then when we look into the next 20 to 30 years, what would be in place to step it up? If we decide that long term, we don't like move, we like them the way it is, and we're going to adjust to the climate change. Right. And one thing that you guys don't address this is the ingress and egress of the property. So right now, I'm just letting you know how we as Canoe Club members who come in, that we use that. I mean, during COVID, we've been confined. So during pre-COVID, we use that every day. I went down there 7 days a week. During COVID, I could only use that area Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Like I'm a coach, so I coach the teens, and we use our ingress and egress on the county side, because I think Cara mentioned Molokai Canoe Club and block that off. They get their own chain, and we talked story with Auntie Liko, and her idea was because people come in and make rubbish, but the chain link fence that she put, he ain't going to stop the homeless and everybody else who walks over there, unannounced. So we right now we use the county side. So we come in up on the road on Hill Place, and we drive into crossing the county and into on that area. That is how we use our ingress and egress. And I know when DLNR did plan this out, they had parking lot on the Hill Place of the property, yeah. So they planned it out to where the parking would be in that area. So if you're looking at having one capacity where you have community events, and this is one holding area, for maybe on Market, where would they park? And how your parking going to be look like, so I don't see that on your map. But yeah, other than leaving us out, other than leaving our Canoe Club out, I agree with Cara.
That we're both smiling here. No, and well, to your point, now this is not showing future, right? This is kind of showing the existing. So, the next step of design would have been hearing some things and, looking at a boardwalk solution and coming back and showing. Typically, we do what we call design precedent, right? We show different kinds of images and ask people like, is this what you mean when you say like a boardwalk experience, or is it something like this? In terms of the parking and things, we do agree that the parking up here on the Hilo Place makes the most sense. I don't like the smoke's not working with me. It doesn't like me. But what we found out too, there is a sewer line. I see it's frozen. I'm gonna get you a new mouse, man. There's a sewer line that actually traverses right through this area and comes on this side of the jailhouse here. We have our engineer online tonight. I'm not aware if it's currently in use or activated, because again, the bathroom's not in use. It's a live line, and how does that work? But it's a design constraint in that it's infrastructure. So if we look to put a parking lot, we'll have to be mindful to actually know where the sewer pipe is, and that, you know, whatever we do doesn't impact that. I think to your question about looking at the time frame and horizon, you know, these special area plans, I don't think they have a specific time to them, although I think when we're talking with preliminarily, we're looking at least about a short term, which would be quantified, like say within 3 to 5 years, and then medium term 5 to 10, and then anything beyond 10 years would be sort of this long-term strategy. So it's meant to be, I think, a plan of implementation where you can see things within a 10-year horizon, and then working together with you folks is not identify the management model. And again, we're throwing different ideas of how this would work. And what we're hearing is that it will be mostly a community-based initiative. Is it a hui of some of you folks working together? Is it a new entity as a nonprofit umbrella organization? Is it a for-profit, et cetera, et cetera? So there could be different ways to approach the management solution, which would then help figure out a pathway forward on the implementation in that time horizon. What I want to say here on another one of your comments. The existing model, right? The existing model was there, I think, with the idea of creating this central space of the pau hula and this gathering space. I think we still can keep the essence of that intact, but maybe this is where, you know, if we're looking to have quote unquote a built structure, maybe it's not a full building, maybe it's a pavilion that's covered that has some limited storage. So again, it's more open air, and you know, it's on the spectrum of a big building that has walls and things to just a pavilion. It's a lower cost development option where it can be flexibly adapted over time to the conditions that will arise in the next 20 years plus. So again, let's throwing out different ideas right now for consideration in the talking story.
Well, we were looking into a traditional haleva'a. I know Aha Kukui or Molokai put in theirs one because they sit on a county property that they were looking into a haleva'a, and we as well was looking into for our Canoe club.
Okay.
I just wanted to chime in for community structure, like a pavilion, you know, for those, if it ever gone to farmers market, whatever, more like a stone wall kind of pavilion, a little similar to something like the one at Kulana Oiwi, slightly, you know, something like that with stone wall, because we got to remember, we're gonna put, if it's structure, we want to put something that could last long. But anyway, whatever, you know, I mean, other community members can share them out. But maybe I do have a question for Andrew. Who's a champion on this project?
That's a good question, Cora. And that's kind of what we wanted to talk story with the community about when Kavika was mentioning what is the management structure, what is the management model that we need in order to implement the ideas of the community. So, you know, step one is identify what ideas the community has for the park. And then step two is, okay, based on those ideas, what is the management structure, or that Kavika mentioned, who, and in your, I guess in your words, Cora, who's going to be championing?
Well, I would have thought that, oh,
and
sorry.
Also, I'll wrap up your start, and then you can go. And then, you know, who are all the partners, and what are the responsibilities of all the partners? So it's a conversation that we want to get to. It's a critical conversation we need to have, because it's good to have ideas about, you know, things that we want to see in the future, but we need to get to steps to get to make those ideas a reality. So yeah, okay, sorry, you can go now.
No, thank you, Andrew. I maybe I perceive on how it works, because my understanding was when we submit a project, we supposed to identify the champion that would spearhead or be in somewhat partnership with you folks. In this case, we're going into a project that we're gonna then solicit for people to take on some sort of management. And anyway, I just, I mean, it's sort of like that's irrelevant at this stage, but in future discussion with projects that need to be identified at the very beginning, but anyway, that's just my manao. Thank you.
Or I can speak to that because I was here pre Andrew and pre these consultants, and when we did this, like I said, the Canoe clubs was there prior to DHHL. And when DHHL, when these lands were transferred over to DHHL, the conversation was exactly what it is. Who gonna manage this area? You get existing canoe clubs on this, on here, and then now that DHHL, now that it's transferred over to DHHL, you had homestead associations coming in and wanting the piece of the pie. You got at least 3, maybe 4 homestead associations surrounding this area. Yeah, you got Kapaakia, you got Kamililoa, you get Kalamaula, and you get Kalamaula Moka, and none of which, except for Kalamaula, and pieces of Kamililoa that has a park. Yeah, Kapaakia no more their own park. Yeah, Kalamaula Moka no more their own park. And so that was the idea. But when we went to DHHL told us that there's no designation. There's no land use designation on this property because it just got transferred. And so, we kind of helped, we wanted to initiate something to say, so how can we get it designated so we can try and see who will be able to manage this place? So, we went through this whole process of it being designated. We got it to a special use designation because of the multi-use that we want to get. We wanted out of this, out of this property, because prior, like I said, prior to DHHL, DLNR created this area for community events. Prior to DLNR, it was more of a political thing, because that was when Ben Cayetano, was governor, and the idea in the 1995 plan was for it to be part of a walkable community, so you can connect Malama Cultural Park to Kaunakakai. And so without all of that busyness of the containers, pre-Makoa trucking, because it wasn't in Makoa's trucking hand, this was a whole 13-acre parcel from Makai all the way to the state highway. And so that was the connection and the walkability of creating a community to connect the main town to the ocean, because people, and this was the only beach that would be shared within the Kaunakakai area, because other than going all the way east end or going all the way west end, this was our only beach in town that we could actually go to and swim in there. And I swam in there since I was a kid. So that was the whole concept, and everything evolved, and like here we are. And so when you said champion, that is why it wasn't a priority project. Because if you're a priority project, like how your plan is, your Ualapu is, then you have a champion. So that is why I included the 2019 regional plan, and it came off as a priority project because DHHL already had funding to go through this planning process and hire G70 to do all of this stuff for us. So that's why we're here now.
Thank you for the background on this.
And I was hoping that Auntie Penny, I've been trying to call her since I knew that you guys had this meeting.
I'm here,
we could have a little manao from her.
Sybil, I'm here.
So, okay, mahalo, Auntie Penny.
I'm sorry, you know what? I had
no worries.
I tuned in last week and nobody was there, and then I forgot about it tonight. Old age, so sorry. But this is a really I really, really wanted to be at this meeting because this is important. We have been working hard on this for a really, really long time.
So for sake of time, aloha, Auntie Penny, good to hear you. We'll regroup with the HHL team and we'll figure out a way to. This was a good conversation. I don't think this was a lost opportunity here. I know our team learned a lot. We're gonna fix the figure. I promise you, Civil. Next time you see this, carrying ball bearings, your site's gonna be on there. If not, you get to I give you free liberty to whack me around sometimes. But I think the essence of what we started to do tonight, we want to do again, and we'll figure out the way to do that. Whether it's another virtual, whether we encourage people to go to the website, or we just figure out a way to come to the island to have this conversation face to face and sit there with maps and start to literally map these ideas out. That'll be my suggestion for the next step. But recognizing we asked for your time to 8:30, and we're past that. I want to be respectful of everyone's time. That Kalamai, I think we're gonna have to close for tonight, but definitely it's not the close of a conversation.
Just wanted to emphasize, tonight we're just collecting the mana'o. We're not making decisions or anything like that. So maybe you guys can show the next steps, which we'll have to think about going forward based on the participation level tonight.
So I'm gonna take 1 minute on this slide here just to say, so for us, we start to think spatially of trees around the coastal zone, a cultural zone, and a community zone, and trying to figure out, okay, what's feasible and doable. So that helped us spatially to start make sense of some of the activities. We identified the top 4. Again, this was out of sort of the 95 plan, and we met in 2020, sort of when we had some questions. The Halal Hula Pavilion, the Halal Va'a, the Kupuna area, and the Hale Malama seem to still come to the surface of high priorities. It's not to say the other ideas didn't matter, just on the scalability of things, these were the things we were, I guess, directed to pay attention to first.
So when you say Halal Va'a, is that singular, or are you guys aware that we're actually like 3 separate canoe clubs down there?
I think that's the feedback we were going to be seeking from you folks tonight. How many? How big?
Because we walked through there with you guys, and I think we pointed that out more than once.
Yeah. Well, I just clarify, we did. So when Kealapono came onto the property, Gigi invited some of us to be able to walk. But I don't think G70 was the consultant at the time, because they did that I guess that archaeological walkthrough with both you and I and Depeni and some of the homestead associations as well, and the other clubs.
So we'll come back to that. I just want to share that, conceptually, that's where we're headed. So again, I'm bringing up this map, if you will, what we're trying to get, right? Because we are scoped for a certain length of time. I want to also I know a sense of community sometimes we plan so much, but when do we actually get to start doing something? So we try to keep the efforts succinct here. The idea was, had we had a larger participation, valuing the vision, getting into some initial design, we would actually try to listen, prepare ourselves to bring back some precedent images. And when we met optimally, probably in July, we would have given you sort of a design palette of choices, whether it's a boardwalk, pavilion versus hale, traditional hale, et cetera, and kind of refine sort of the puzzle pieces that would come into place. That was the intention for where we would be going next, through the summer. And then we would go back and actually do our homework to then, there's content requirements we have to meet that we then actually put this all together in the actual plan. That was going to go to then Hawaiian Homes Commission for informational purposes, again, recognizing that one, they're the authority body that will approve this, but also gives the general public a chance to come in, testify, say what they like, what they don't like, what's good, what's junk. And then we would take all of that EK, refine it to an actual draft, where then, as you can see here, we would come back out to you folks either through small group meetings or another consultation process to kind of say, are we getting this right? Talk about management strategies, talk about some preliminary costing issues, package all of that together, and then go back one final time to commission to present the entire plan. And right now, I won't say it's aggressive, but it's a progressive schedule that we were hoping to actually have a plan by the end of the year that could go to commission for approval in the first part of 2022. So, but recognizing that tonight, maybe we didn't get the full participation that we need to see. Doesn't mean July 2021 is off the board to actually hold the next big meeting, but between now and then, we may have to consider other ways of continuing this conversation, again, maybe in person, online, what have you. So, or be invited to Sybil, your meeting coming up here on the Thursday. However, we can be a part of a conversation, we definitely want to avail ourselves.
You know, I'm sorry for when I realized the meeting was tonight, it was already almost 8 o'clock, and it said it was going to be done at 8. So I thought, you know, too late. But then Sybil said it was still going on, so I took a chance and just jumped in. Like I said, I actually was so excited for this meeting. I tuned in last week, Thursday, and couldn't figure out why I couldn't get on, you know, and then realized I had the whole wrong week. Hello. Okay. But you know, we have been in conversation. Am I missing something here? But we've been in conversation with you guys for a while now, and I thought that we had expressed what we're hopeful for this Malama Park. Is that not true? No.
I think we've heard
according to what they get, Auntie Penny, no. So we would have to retell them again. So I did invite them to our meeting, and I'm going to make a conscious effort to let everybody know that who's been involved in this discussion about Malama Park, Auntie.
I'm just wondering what happened. Is there more than one? Was there, like, we were talking with different players, or has this changed hands? The designing people change hands, or what's happening here?
What I sense may have happened, and I'm just guessing. So we've had 2 conversations with you folks in July and October. So that's where we're sort of just kind of, you know, presenting ourselves and our intention. In the earlier part of this year, we did send a team out that was purely archaeology, but as I understand, I think there might have been some community input with the archaeology team, but they were not the ones to then communicate maybe what you said in full. They were just looking at the space from an archaeological context. So it sounds like maybe there might have been a communication of information that never got on.
So I'm also wondering, excuse, I didn't mean to be rude and interrupt, but I'm also wondering too about way earlier, before any planners came into the conversation, the DHHL themselves asked each canoe club, and I heard Sybil mention it earlier, to send in a proposal, you know, like a wish list, what we had hoped. And I wonder if any of that was shared with you guys, since now you're the planners. Was that even shared with you guys?
Do you know who from the department asked for proposals? Was it our land
It was
management?
It was a few years ago. It might have been.
Okay.
I'm not sure who, or did we send it to the chair, Sybil? When this first.
I know we did a presentation to the commission. I know we talked to I think either was Gigi and Shelly when they came at one of I don't know if they did a walkthrough on the property when it was during a commission meeting.
I'll have to ask Cami, because this is a few years ago when Malama Park first got returned to DHHL, and you know the state turned it back. And then the DHHL got involved again and was asking us to send in proposals of what we wanted to see happen, like where we saw ourselves in the scheme of things. And so we did write up a proposal. So that might be helpful, you know. I don't know. And is there any way between all these Zooms, like if we have some thoughts to share or ideas, or we remember things, is there any way we can get these things to you through email or whatever, phone call, whatever?
Yeah, absolutely. There. Yeah. So again, I'm Kavika, Cody here. A 523 number, I guess you can use that number. It's because again, our office, we're part working from home still, part here in the office. I'm here every day. So if you call that 523 number, you just want to like, hey, I want to talk to Kavika, they'll pass you on to me. We have set up underneath our group 70 email. It's malamaculturalpark@g70.design. That's an email you can use to.
Okay, Sybil, are you copying this information? Because I'm not savvy.
Yeah.
I'm afraid I'm gonna get lost if I try to go somewhere else.
And then another way,
I will touch bases with them.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the last way is actually, even if you don't, this is a long address to remember. You just go into your Google and you just type in DHHL Malama Cultural Park. It will, the first line you will see is a link to the special area plan page. That has information from our past meetings. It all has ways to contact us there.
Okay.
So you can use that as another means. And yeah, let's keep in touch. I'll work with Andrew and Perline on the DHL side to figure out, how best we can maybe re-engage this conversation. Maybe there's a way we can confirm, those proposals that you talk about sound like there might be some good information. And if we can get that, we can start to process, those comments and thoughts. And again, so our intent is not to recreate the wheel. We want to work with what you guys have already been thinking about.
The other thing too, just to keep in mind as you plan and you consider the canoe clubs down there, is that seriously, we have nowhere else to go. I looked for other venues. There are none that can accommodate the canoe clubs and, that has enough water or, to go out at any time. Most places we'd have to wait for the high tide. The high tide isn't always accommodating for us. Can't go out at 2 a.m. or 8 o'clock at night. So the harbor area is really the best for a canoe club to operate, and to hold practices and stuff. And it is in line with the legacy of Kuhio, if this is a DHHL thing, because he was an avid canoe person. He owned his own canoe, he raced, he loved to gamble on the races. It was something that he had a passion for. And I think in a way we can honor his legacy by continuing to perpetuate canoe paddling, especially on Hawaiian homelands. I mean, to me, it's just a no-brainer,
Right.
And really, I not to take advantage of DHHL, so I did research other venues, and there really isn't any. I mean, I was even willing to have them come to my homestead over here on the South Shore, but like I said, the high tide really isn't accommodating. So, yeah, please, we have nowhere else to go.
So we'll definitely work together to solve it. So again, please rest assured, this is not the end all tonight. I definitely learned a lot. We'll fix the things we promised to fix, and then we'll work again with the team as a whole to figure out how we can best engage you folks in sooner than later. Because again, I don't want to lose the energy and the sentiments that are being shared tonight. Because I think that's good energy, and we want to keep moving forward so we actually can get to formulating some ideas.
Okay, and I'll try to get my wheat straightened out. Oh my God, so many Zooms and.
Yeah, I totally understand that too. Sybil, you want to share one final thought or?
Don't worry, Auntie, I'm going to keep you abreast. We're going to do fourth Thursday, 5:30 to 7:30 p.m. And we're going to gather everybody so that we can listen to Kavika them and share our mana'o.
Just give me a reminder.
They ain't going to get off the hook, Auntie.
Kids my back. My old brain is getting stretched on all this technology stuff.
Oh no, I hear you. I get zoomed out every day, so usually I just spend time when I go home. I spend about an hour I use Q therapy. I just play my Kika and I just not look at a computer for a couple of hours.
Oh, yesterday I put my one man in the water. I went for a very long paddle.
Nice.
Yeah.
Andrew, any last thoughts before we close out?
Just that again, we will try to we will make an effort to re-engage a community on this planning process so that we can get a robust conversation about what people want to see. We will look at, and I think if it was a presentation to the commission, we will go through the commission files and see what if that information that he shared with the department previously is in there, so that we can
I can go
definitely
talk to my sister-in-law who was the president at the time, and she might remember about what
Okay.
time that was
Okay,
presented. But I do know that I think even Molokai Canoe Club might have at that time sent in a proposal as well. You
okay.
know,
So
because it was
we'll
just when the HHL came back into the picture, and
okay.
yeah,
Yeah, we'll go try to find it in the files and
I don't
then
know, man. It's been going on for a while, so that there's a a lot of things happened, and it's hard to keep track of everything. But
I think that was in 2014. It was 2014, and I think a lot of the commission one was during the special use land designation when DHHL was going through that process, because I think that's when we kind of came together and started really planning out how we see
okay.
our park. And Auntie Penny, she spoke, you said your mana'o at these meetings. So, and it was more than one meeting. Yeah, Auntie Penny.
oh yeah. Well,
Okay.
with DHHL, sorry, I'm not being sassy, but there's always more than one meeting. Yeah.
We like to meet.
If you call me, we will close out, and if it's okay, I'll offer up today for us to our separate
Yeah.
ways.
Can I just say one more thing?
Yes, ma'am.
This Malama Park thing has been going on for a long, long time, and it's a real important thing. It's more than just a park. And yeah, so I really I know you guys are trying hard, and I appreciate that, because I want to see it done right, and pleasing for everybody, to help everybody. So thank you guys for making this effort to continuously include us and to actually listen. Thank you for that.
Thank you, Andy. For that spirit thing, my dad would say, spirit like ko yo ke kalane no nani a ko no mahalo pia no ki mana ke pune I kuka I come into the clean I come home he o ka hoina o ka Malama Cultural Park kilo ne a malo pia no ka lokumai kai no oni maloko kana ao na po e ke ka kuka ki po e hopai pai ka pohaku ki a plan as we move forward. Kia po, e po mai kai a ma ko I ka hoi ka hale, e hoi kai ka me ka po male, ka moe pono, a I ka manawa ke kupono ke hui pu I kuka me ke kai. We ask all these things in the name of Jesus Christo, your Son, Jesus Christ. Amen. Thank you, everybody.
Mahalo. Thank you.
Thank you.
Aloha.